This past Saturday, I had a chance to drop by Thornley Secondary School in Thornhill as CCYA, the Canadian Chinese Youth Athletic Association, announced a partnership with Jeremy Lin on the Jeremy Lin Basketball School, core curriculum and training module, which is going to be introduced at schools in Markham, Scarborough, North York, and Toronto later this year. Jeremy was in attendance in the morning. He ran a basketball clinic with the kids at the gym and then had a presser after, talk a little bit more about why he wanted to partner with CCY on this curriculum, and I had a chance to ask him a couple extra questions after as well. So we'll play some clips here. So to start, starting with the presser, Jeremy talked about how the curriculum is designed to have both on and off court elements. It's for kids ages 3 to 16. And here's Jeremy talking about why he wanted to launch this new basketball program in Toronto.
I think for me, I'm passionate about players becoming better at basketball, but I'm also probably even more passionate about, Asian kids growing up with confidence, with self-esteem, being proud to be Asian, which was something that I wasn't growing up, and to be able to learn different values beyond just shooting, but just character development. How do you communicate? How do you be a part of a team? How do you lead? How do you serve? A lot of these types of values are really important. And so for me, it just seemed like everything kind of came together. It made a lot of sense. So that's why I'm super excited to be here. And that's why I want to make the trip.
Yeah, and it was interesting for Jeremy to talk about, wanting Asian kids growing up to have more confidence and honestly to just get into sports. Because I think for a lot of Asian listeners out there, I think about my experience here too, growing up, with immigrant parents, like sports just isn't something that's very encouraged. And it's not something that, you're pushed towards. We joke a lot about Asian parents, pushing their kids towards extracurriculars, whether it's, playing piano or, different things. But, they don't see sports as something that can become financially beneficial down the line. And I mean, that's a bigger conversation about just the lack of representation of, having Asians, at high school basketball, college, and obviously at the pro level. So later on in the presser, Jeremy talked a little bit about the support of his parents growing up and how important that was.
I said that because my parents got a lot of criticism in letting me and my brothers play. And I understand it, that as immigrants, sometimes basketball or extracurriculars, I completely understand the philosophy behind it, but I think, again, it was never something that was guaranteed. I really believe, like, if my parents didn't take that step, which again took a lot of criticism from a lot of people around them, including even some family members trying to dissuade us from playing basketball. If that never happened, I would never even have gotten close to playing in high school, college, and so on and so forth. So to see just maybe a change in thinking or perspective from, as time goes on, I just think that's something worth talking about, celebrating, and being grateful for.
Now, Jeremy also was really excited to be back in Toronto. I got a fact check. I believe this might have been his first time back in Toronto since he was with the Raptors in 2019. He played for the Beijing Ducks in China this past season, and he's not ruling out a return to the NBA. But the last time he did play in the league was with the Raptors when they picked him up mid-season during that 2019 championship run. At the presser, I asked Jeremy just for his recollections about his brief run here in Toronto, and here's what he said.
Toronto, during the time I was here, it was, it's just so diverse. People are so kind. It really felt more like a community than a lot of the other cities that I had lived in. And then on top of that, you have add in the Raptors, the run, the championship and everything. But it was just something that to me, I felt like a draw to the city when I was here. And I feel like the way that I was embraced, and I'm not afraid to talk about it, like during the playoff run, just not playing, not being in the rotation, not actually contributing on the court to the team. But even with all of that, I feel like just being here and being a part of the team and representing for Asians was something that was really appreciated in the community. And so, again, You know, I wasn't the example of what it looks like to be the best player on the best team, but I just felt like sometimes that's how it is. And if we can all play our different roles, I think that's important. And same with this, you know, me coming back is just, I want to do that.
Thought it was interesting that unprompted Jeremy talked about, something that he talked about very openly after winning the championship here in Toronto about wrestling with the fact that he wasn't an on-court contributor during the championship run. And it was something that I think really bothered him at the time when he won the championship, and he's described it as a somewhat bittersweet experience for him. So after the presser, I asked Jeremy, this being the 3-year anniversary of the Raptors winning the championship, during these 3 years, whether he's reconciled those feelings now. And here's what he had to say.
That's a great question. I mean, I feel like when it first happened, there was this like tension of like, well, you didn't contribute on the court. I think as more time passes, I get more and more comfortable with like, no, you deserve this. Like you worked for it. And I think like now that I'm more removed and it's like there is no like 100% Asian American like in the NBA right now. Like there are 100%, and I don't know if I think that's correct. There's no 100% fully 100% Asian American, and then just to be able to be the first to win a championship, like these types of things mean more now that I've been able to take a couple steps back and just say, and also to understand like, look, I put a lot into my career. I put a lot into that team, and even just being able to push the guys that were on the court or to be able to communicate in ways that would transfer over to how they were playing. I think these things are all more valuable. It's just maybe a little bit harder to accept right at that moment.
Another thing that Jeremy, I think, has gained perspective over the years is with his 2012 run with the New York Knicks during the Linsanity era. Damn, it's been 20 years. I was 27 back then. And, Jeremy was actually flying out from Toronto straight to New York for the Tribeca Film Festival over the weekend, where they were debuting a new documentary film, 38 at the Garden, which chronicled that run. And that's another part of Jeremy's career where he's talked a lot about being resentful because, a lot of people did prop him up and a lot of people wanted to be in his orbit. And then when, the stardom faded away a little bit, those same people just weren't around anymore. He's been very open about the Linsanity experience. I also asked him about finding appreciation about that period of time. And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it just came over time, right? Like when you're in the middle of it, it's just like there's so much stuff that you had to deal with that you didn't sign up for. And I think I had to go through that phase of bitterness and resentment. And also just growing up in my evolution of really understanding how the world works, like understanding microaggressions and the way that, Asians have been treated for centuries in North America, and understanding just how hard it really is, and I think for me, it's like I wanted to go to the NBA. I went through the draft. I went undrafted, but I ended up making it right away through Summer League, right? But then I try to come back. Not only that, but then I have like 9 years in, and then like, and then because I go to the Raptors and I have 12 games where I don't play well, like I'd never touched the NBA court since, right? And so realizing that, going to the NBA G League and actually not being able to get in, like all these things to me, it was like, it gave me new perspectives of like, hey, this is how quick they are to count you out. Or, hey, even when you show them in the G League, like it still doesn't mean that you automatically deserve, and these are all part of the experiences that a lot of minorities are experiencing in their own spheres. And so for me, it made me realize like, oh, it wasn't even like, before it was like I'm trying to run from it, and then midway through it was like, I guess I should talk about it, to now it's like, no, I want to talk about it. Like I have to talk about it. And so that's the embracing that you're talking about.
Yeah. I also pointed out to Jeremy that, I mean, he was 23 years old at the time when Linsanity happened. And, not to sound always like the old guy on this show, but, I was telling him, like, you grow a lot in your 20s and you find out a lot about yourself. And here's what he had to say, too, about that.
I was just tired of being the token Asian for my whole life. And I was tired of people kind of discounting or disregarding like being a master of my craft because everything just turned into he's Asian, and that's all we're going to talk about. And do I regret it? Yeah, I talk about it very openly. I regret not championing that more, not embracing it more. But I also understand why I acted that way. I do understand why. Because for so long, it was just like, like, yeah, like what I said, just the token Asian, and we're going to interview you and only just basically take like clickbait type stuff to talk about your Asianness, and that's it. And everything else that you said, we disregarded, and it felt very dehumanizing in ways. And so when Linsanity came around, I just wanted to be known as a great basketball player, and I wasn't ready or prepared to handle the rest.